Sean Hickey from ProFarmerGrain joins us for the Country Viewpoint program. And Sean, all the grains and the oilseeds, we're waving them off at the harbours. They're happily going overseas. Plenty we brought in. Just how are we travelling on pricing this current week?
Yeah, that's right. We got there. We got there in the end. We have seen a little bit more kind of, I suppose, stable movement come into the market over the last couple of weeks, really. We have seen a bit of strengthening in canola, but barley and your kind of feed wheat values are really kind of sitting at a bit of a flatter level. They're getting decent support from Southeast Asian feed markets and also some decent demand from the East Coast, which has kind of brought a bit of a floor under pricing. So a little bit more stability coming into the market following a really busy harvest.
Yeah, that's good to hear because we certainly pulled a whole lot off. I saw an infographic shared at an ag conference showing that I think in a number of states it was the biggest harvest on record, except for perhaps Victoria and New South Wales from memory.
Yeah, that's right. South Australian winter crop production came in at a record level, so coming in almost near that 12 million tonne mark. So that surpassed the record that was set in 16-17, I think. And that was really driven by an increase in planted area, but then just kind of perfectly timed rainfall throughout the year. So a really strong year for the country, but South Australia as a whole as well obviously had a record season. So some positive yields and some positive results for growers.
And on the export front, I've spoken recently with others about the grain corridor deal in the Ukraine. That's been, I assume that's been confirmed again and it's continuing. Russia's letting that out and that probably has an impact on price as well. Yeah,
it kind of has been a little bit less of a talking point coming into the expiry in mid-March of that deal, with markets kind of just broadly expecting that that'll be renewed without too many issues. I believe that Russia have a meeting scheduled for later on in this week, so it wouldn't surprise me if that was confirmed to kind of go ahead in the next week or two, with the benefit that it brings obviously not only to Ukraine but Russia as well. So yeah, that'll bring a little bit more certainty into the kind of global supply picture, I suppose, particularly for your wheat and your oil seeds too. So we don't expect too much price movement or reaction from markets as a result, with markets kind of already having anticipated that deal will be put through without too many issues. So should that go on for the next couple of weeks, markets may get a little bit more nervy, but generally I think widely expected to be put through without too many issues.
Now, there's never any rest for our farmers. They hardly ever get a day off, and no sooner is a bumper harvest in, we've got to start getting ready for the next one. What are you picking up about what they're looking to put in the ground this year?
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's kind of going to be the first year where we don't have really strong wet conditions, or at least wet conditions on the forecast. So we've got a little bit more of a dry forecast through to June coming out of the Bureau of Meteorology. So I suppose given that, taking into account that the growers have had some really strong, favourable cash flow over the last couple of years following a few good seasons, we think there may be a little bit more of a risk-averse approach to planting this year. So a bit of a constriction in overall planted area as growers maybe look at the poorer performing paddocks and decide to leave them out for this year and maybe just focus on the better performing paddocks. Obviously, in terms of crop rotation and things like that, there'll be a little bit more of a move back towards barley and away from canola. We've obviously seen those canola prices come back from the near $1,000 highs they hit in early 2022 now to around that kind of $750 tonne mark. So there's a little bit less of the drive there for growers to get canola in the ground too. But in positive news for planting, input costs have kind of really come back from the record highs that we did see last year. Still above average, but much lower than what was seen. So that should prove favourable for margins, which might encourage growers to plant a little bit more than perhaps what they were expecting to do 2 or 3 months ago.
And you mentioned barley there. It could be a bit of a punt by some farmers that maybe China might open up and start taking our barley again. Whilst we keep hearing talk of whispers that may happen, it's hard to find any evidence that China are looking to budge on that one.
Yeah, that's right. So that's kind of been one of the things that has improved a little bit of sentiment towards barley as well. It has seen growers also kind of hold back in terms of selling in the hope that we will see that additional demand come from China, and it might spike prices too. But in terms of the China situation, there hasn't been anything more than just the talk and the whispers. So I certainly wouldn't hold my breath. China had requested Australia drop their action with the World Trade Organization against the the punitive measures that China put on Australian barley exports, and Australia have basically come back and said, no, we're going to see that one through. So I believe that ruling is due to come through in the next month or two. So I wouldn't really expect too much movement from China until that ruling has been made, if I'm honest.
And I'm not quite across the timing on this, but I knew the barley restriction from China had a time limit on it. When is it due to expire relative to when that decision comes out, and indeed whether it might even be enforced in the first place?
Yeah, I believe it's due to continue through the remainder of the year 2023, but I would have to double check that as well. So essentially that date with the World Trade Organization ruling, that's kind of the big one. Obviously, China were probably hoping to see a little bit of what you might call goodwill, and remove that action, and then almost as a bit of a thank you, they could potentially just go ahead and remove the tariffs on Australian barley. But yeah, it doesn't appear like that's going to happen. Looking like it's just going to go through to the World Trade Organization decision, and whether that is followed through and implemented, it's kind of anyone's guess at this point, I suppose.
Yeah, I just quickly did a Google there. I think those tariffs imposed in 2020 were meant to run for 5 years. So if we don't get any budging from China, if they don't renew the ban, then theoretically we might get back in there without tariffs in 2025.
Yeah. So actually quite a way away, isn't it? Which I suppose is one of those major drivers behind Australia taking that action with the World Trade Organization. So it will be interesting to see what that ruling comes out as, and actually, when that ruling does come through, what kind of an impact it does have on domestic prices as well.
All right, Sean Hickey from ProFarmerGrain. If anyone wants any more up-to-date information, where can they reach out or find out more information online?
Yeah, you can just jump on our website, profarmergrain.com.au, and that gives you a really good run-through of what domestic prices are doing across every port zone and site, or feel free to jump onto the Rural Bank website, where we have a number of different reports available.
Thanks again, Sean, for joining us. Have a great weekend.
No worries. You too. Thanks, Ricky.